And I upheld my oath when my service took me to NASA, where I went into space 4 times, where I was honored to command 2 space shuttle missions, and where I was also the first astronaut on the scene in East Texas after Space Shuttle Columbia exploded during re-entry. And I had to recover the bodies of my friends and astronaut classmates. And I have upheld my oath here in the United States Senate, a place I never expected to find myself in, because my wife, Gabby, was always the elected official in our family. If she had never been shot in the head, it probably would be here, she would be here in this chamber and not me. But I love this country, and I felt that I had an obligation to continue my public service in a way that I never expected. And so I've upheld my oath in this job too, because I take seriously my duty to protect the Constitution for all Americans. I just never expected that I would have to protect the rule of law against a Secretary of Defense. Pete Hegseth is now coming after what I earned through my 25 years of military service in violation of my rights as an American and as a retired veteran and as a United States Senator whose job it is to hold this and any administration accountable. He doesn't like what I said, and so he is trying to censure and demote me. And let's talk for just a second about what it is that I said that he decided to censure me over, according to his letter. First, that I simply restated the law, that service members must refuse illegal orders. Somehow, restating the law is now against the law, according to Pete Hegseth. This isn't new. It's something every recruit is taught. It's something that Pete Hegseth himself has said repeatedly, including specifically about this president and Commander-in-Chief Donald Trump. Second, that I criticized him for firing admirals and generals, and that this administration is surrounding themselves with a bunch of yes men. Let me repeat it here right now. It is bad for our national security that Pete Hegseth fired admirals and generals because of who they are. And a bunch of yes men, well, that's bad for any organization. Lastly, he is censuring me because I've raised concerns about his actions and military operations. Well, that's my job. I have every right to say these things as an American, as a retired service member, and as a U.S. Senator, and especially as a member of the Armed Services Committee whose duty it is to provide oversight over the Department of Defense. Pete Hegseth's unconstitutional crusade against me sends a chilling message to every retired member of the military. If you speak out and say something that the President and Secretary of Defense doesn't like, you will be censured, threatened with demotion, or even prosecuted. every service member knows that military rank is earned, it's not given. It's earned through the risks you take, the sacrifices you and your family make, the leadership you display, and the respect you earn from the superiors who recommend you for promotion. After my 25 years of service, I earned my rank as a captain in the United States Navy. Now, Pete Hegseth wants even our longest-serving military veterans to live with the constant threat that they could be deprived of their rank and retirement pay years or even decades after they leave the military just because he or another Secretary of Defense or a president doesn't like what they've said. If Pete Hegseth succeeds in silencing me, then he and every other Secretary of Defense who comes after him will have license to punish any retired veteran of any political persuasion for the things that they say. And by that logic, a 100-year-old World War II veteran could be hauled in and censured or court-martialed because he says something that Pete Hegseth disagrees with. That's wrong. It's not the way things work in the United States of America, and I will not stand for it. Because our freedom of speech, the separation of powers, and due process are not just words on a page. They are core principles of our democracy. When we say we have an obligation to protect and defend the Constitution, this is exactly what we are all talking about. It's this. Because that oath that I spoke about earlier, it should sound very familiar to other folks in this room, because it is the same one that every member of the United States Senate has taken. For 250 years, we have been the greatest democracy the world has ever seen because patriotic Americans have been willing to stand up for not just their own rights, but for the rights of all of our fellow citizens. That continued resolve is what will decide if our democracy lasts another 250 years. That's why today I filed a lawsuit against the Secretary of Defense to protect my rights, the rights of retired veterans, and the rights of all Americans. I've never backed down from a fight for our country, and I'm not going to back down from this one. Thank you, Madam President, and I yield the floor.